everyone, welcome back to Getting to Know You. This week our guest is Miss Sheri Rick. I call her Miss Sheri Rick because I usually refer to her as Miss Rick because she has taught my daughter for the last couple of years. But for this interview, I'll be calling her Sheri because we are getting to know her in her role in the school, but also in the parish. She's done a lot in both of those places and been such an important part to both the school and the parish. Sheri, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you, John?
Good. Thanks so much for doing this.
You're welcome. Thanks for asking me.
Absolutely. So my first question for you is tell us about you.
Oh, let's see. I'm a Milwaukee native. I have an older brother, Steve.
Where did you
grew up
grow
on the northwest side of Milwaukee.
Yeah, good.
Went to the other St. Catherine's. Same saints, kind of weird, but there's two St. Catherine's of Alexandria. I went to the one
up on Brown Deer.
Brown Deer Road, yes.
Yeah,
and that's where I went to school for 1st through 8th grade, and then I went to a public high school, and then I went to Mount Mary College, now university for college. And now I've been a teacher at SEBS for about 23 years, my 29th year of teaching.
23 years you've been at SEBS?
Mm-hmm.
Where did you first teach?
I taught first in the MPS at 2 different schools in the inner city called La Follette for 5 years. And I taught 4th and 5th grade, I alternated. And then 1 year in a 3rd, 4th grade combo class in a small school not far from my house.
Very good. Have you always, since you've been at SEBS, have you always taught middle school and theology?
Middle school, yes, but I started with English. We had something called language arts and literature. They were separated at one point. Yeah. And I was the language arts teacher for 16 years. And then did a religion teacher and we couldn't find one. So the previous principal approached a couple of us and I was the one who would say, do it. I was looking for something different. So I switched.
Well, you're good at it. So thank you.
Oh, thanks.
I was going to ask you, you know what, I just want to get right into your faith because I know that it's important to you. And I know that is, you actively live out your faith in the parish as a sacristan, but also as a religion teacher in the school. So can you tell me about your faith a little bit?
Well, I was born and raised Catholic. My parents are both Catholic. Mom is a convert to Catholicism. So she didn't become a Catholic until she was an adult. So she's always had this innate curiosity about the faith and she's kind of passed that on to me. She asks a lot of questions and I've learned a lot from her. My dad was, he's deceased now, but he was a permanent deacon in the church.
I know your dad was a deacon.
Yeah, and he was ordained in 1981. So he went to the seminary. So we have a lot of religious books in the house. And, I've learned a lot from both of them and it's just been always something that interests me. And then I've just watched my parents with their example of living the faith and relying on the faith when times are hard because they went through a lot together. So I just rely on my faith to get me through the hard times. And it's just always been a source of comfort and strength.
I know you recently lost your dad and I'm sorry for that. And
thank you.
I witnessed that faith be a big part of what helped you grieve and cope with that, right?
Yep, it did.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'd done without it.
Can you talk a little bit about, two things were interesting. One, your mom being a convert, I think is interesting because I hear that over and over again. People that convert to Catholicism have this natural curiosity. They kind of know they don't know everything. And so they've kind of gotten over well, I'm just not going to ask. They go ahead and ask. And
right.
And it almost seems like it gives them permission to be seekers more. Yes. Yeah.
Right. And
yeah, go ahead.
I've never been afraid to ask questions because she was never afraid to ask questions.
I was going to say that must have cultivated something in you too. Right?
Right. Yeah.
And then talk a little bit about your dad, because I didn't know he was a deacon. So what kind of ministry did he do as a deacon?
He had a ministry to the elderly. So he's really concentrated on his work with nursing homes in the area where we would go every Sunday and give communion and do a little prayer service for those who could attend that. And then I think he went once during the week too, to see people at the nursing home.
Which nursing home would he go to?
I don't know if it's still around anymore. It's called Bradley Convalescent Center,
Okay.
Bradley Road over by Brown Deer.
Oh, that's
So-
great. What parish were you guys a part of growing up? St.
And that was St. Catherine's.
He was a deacon at
So-
St. Catherine's.
Yeah. mhm.
Very good. And then you live out your faith in other ways too. Do you want to talk about your role in as a sacristan?
Oh, sure. So I've been doing that about 16 years now, and I had been a Eucharistic minister, and then I was approached about doing being a sacristan, and that's just someone who, our job is just to make sure everything's ready for the liturgy, the mass, and being there for the priest. Master of ceremonies is what Mike Kamensky told me I was when I started doing it.
Yeah.
And the only thing I've never done is a wedding. I've done funerals, I've done first communion, confirmation, baptism. So
It's
I've
all
done them all Holy Week, Christmas.
cool. Yeah, it's all the behind the scenes stuff of mass, and
Mhm.
I think it's so interesting because I don't know if people realize it. I mean, they might see you kind of floating around, but they don't necessarily know what you're doing. Can you, like in a real practical way, just kind of go through before mass? What are you thinking
Sure.
about? What are you thinking about during
Yeah.
mass?
Well, so our job now includes opening the doors. We unlock the doors now. That's a newer responsibility.
Yeah, it's good.
Turn on all the lights. We set out all of the materials the priest would need, including there's 2 different books, priest sleeps, technically 3. There's because there's 2 Roman missals, which done. We make sure we have enough and wine for the Eucharist. We light the candles now because there's no servers currently.
Mm.
I put out anything else that the priest would need, like for baptism, all of the oil, the 2 different oils, the water. For baptisms, we get to clean the fonts for that. So there's a lot to it. And just make sure that we count people at mass. So if you see the sacristan looking around, she is counting to make sure we have enough hosts. It's one of the struggles is you can count accurately, because there's a few times I correctly, we almost ran out. So it was no loaves in the fish experience that day.
Yeah, that's
And
good.
making sure there's enough Eucharistic ministers, that's another job of ours.
Mhm.
Making sure the microphones work. It's our fault if the battery fails, we figure that out. So
Wow, that's a lot of responsibility.
yeah, very
Um,
nerve-wracking when I first started, because I was like, I'm going to forget something, and I probably did, but now it's
Yeah,
I'm much more
learn.
comfortable.
You'll learn, right?
Yep.
Why do you do it now? I mean, you did it because you were asked to, but you continue to do it. Why?
I just didn't like being involved in that way. And when my dad got to a point where he couldn't live at home anymore, so he was at the VA and the nursing home there, and I had to pull back because I was working too much with my teaching job and sacristan. So I was only working once, and I started thinking, well, maybe it's just time to completely leave. Well, then the pandemic struck, and I didn't work as a sacristan for a year.
Yeah.
And I realized I missed it. It was actually over a year. And so it was a good break for me.
Yeah.
And I'm still enjoying it again. It's just not just once a month. And I just enjoyed being there, because at home watching mass at home was just not this in the pews for those few months. I was like, oh, just missed being involved in another way.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And sometimes we need that break to kind of know how we appreciate things. But, thank you for doing it, because it's all the behind the scenes stuff that people don't know about.
Stuff that we, like, I always took for granted. I didn't realize. I'm like,
let's talk a little bit about your teaching in the school a little bit more. You see that as an extension of your faith too, right?
Yes, right. Because I try to share my faith experiences and try to just pass on what I have learned as a Catholic and as a Christian, and just be a role model for the students about trying to grow in the faith.
Yeah.
And rely on that faith.
Yeah, that's good. I have the benefit of kind of seeing it from a parent's view, and Maria was recently telling me that oftentimes when you read a gospel story, you will have the students look at all the other three gospels to kind of look at the comparison of those.
Mhm.
I can guess, but I would wonder if you could talk about why you have the students do that.
Well, the four gospels are written by four different people, and so they have different audiences. So what they wanted to focus on, and so when we read them, there's three gospels that are very similar called the Synoptic Gospels. So we always start with Mark's gospel because that was first,
Right.
and then we look at how Matthew and Luke, they usually have the same stories, did that, and then sometimes John has the same stories, but not always. So we just look at that and see how they're alike and how they're different. And then I try to point out, like, well, there's the reason Matthew does this because it's his audience and Luke's audience.
Yep. Yep.
So
It's a great teaching tool, I think, to get the
it
kids
is.
understanding how scripture is written and how people were reading it. And
Yeah.
yeah, that's good. What's your favorite thing to teach in religion?
Oh boy,
Sorry, put you on the spot.
that's hard. I like the Bible stories because the kids really get into them, especially because you can make them so relatable because they're human beings.
Yeah.
But of the stories, I really like teaching the miracles of Jesus because I think they're just so powerful and there's so much to them beyond just the healing or the resurrection or the exorcism, just what Jesus is trying to show people.
Yeah.
I really like teaching those.
I'm really putting you on the spot now, but how do you deal with students that struggle with the idea of miracles? Do they ever question that?
They don't necessarily question that, but I know I have some students who doubt, that struggle with belief in that. And I'm like, oh, God can handle it. God can handle anything. I just say that. And I'm like, you can be angry at God. God can deal with it. And I said, I think that I just believe that it will change as you grow. You'll see it differently. I pray that for them, that they will be able to believe without having proof.
Yeah. Yeah. Faith is a hope that we can't always prove, can we?
Right. Yep.
No, yeah, it's good. Well, thank you for being so dedicated.
Oh, thanks.
As a parent, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Anything else you want to say about your faith?
I just hope that I continue to grow in it. I know I need to keep developing my own faith, and it's been easy sometimes to just slack off on it because I do it so much at school, but I really should keep working on my own personal faith.
Yeah.
So trying to pray more. I should be reading the Bible more. So all those things.
I think we all can relate to that, right? Every Catholic says that.
Yeah.
And I do also relate to, when you teach this for a living, you do kind of say, oh, I'm already doing this, and you can have a tendency to slack off a little bit. But that being said, I think you are a great example to the students and to the parishioners. So
thanks.
Yeah, so just know that you look like you are doing that real well.
Okay, great. Thank you.
My last question for you, Sheri, is when you think about the future, what do you hope for?
In the church?
Sure.
I know Pope Francis really wants to change a lot of things, and I hope that more people will be open to it. I think the church needs to move forward. And I personally think we should open up like ordination to married men and women. I would like that for the church. I think that's just so important to have all the sacraments, because without priests, we can't have so many of the sacraments. So
yeah, that's true.
We need them. And I just like to see us also work on an ecumenical aspect, like realizing that God is present in many different faiths, not just the Catholic faith. So I would like to encourage that again. I think that's kind of fallen by the wayside in some ways.
Yeah. You mean like kind of the respect and dialogue?
Right. Yeah. Especially between Christian faiths, but also with the Jewish people and the Muslim, and just knowing that, especially those three faiths, I mean, those two other faiths, we are all united through the same God. So
Yes,
I'd like to
all
focus on that. Yeah.
foundations there. So yeah, those are good goals. And I think there's one thing I'll say about women is that I know so many strong, talented, gifted, faithful women. And so I do hope we continue to lift women up in leadership like yourself. And like,
thanks.
yeah. What do you hope for when you think about the rest of the world?
Well, I hope we can learn that it's okay to be different and to have different opinions. I think right now we're just so polarized, and it's not everyone has to agree with everyone, and
yeah,
we're not respectful when we disagree. And I try to tell my students, it's God made us different for a reason. It'd be the same. It wouldn't be great if we didn't all we're all the same person. But
right.
I think adults just forget that. And then kids learn that from us. And I know I struggle with that too, though, because I'm like, okay, they don't like what I like. Oh my gosh, what's wrong with that? And I just have to remind myself, that's just the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So,
but it's a common feeling, right? Like,
yeah. Right.
But I recently heard someone say, unity does not necessarily mean uniformity, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
We all have different
points. Yeah.
We have different gifts to share, and that's kind of what makes us beautiful.
Right.
Yeah.
And I would like our country, the United States, to be a better role model. I know we have a lot of great ideals, but I think we should live them out better throughout the world.
Yeah.
And not something I've realized is I think the United States sometimes puts itself above all other countries, and we're not above all other countries. So I try to remind myself that too, like every other country deserves the same things we have.
Yeah.
And we're not better just because we're the United States. So
practice of humility and maybe practice in solidarity.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Very good. Thank you. Those are all definitely things to think about and hold up. So thank you. Sheri, I really appreciate the time that you gave me in talking today. It was a real blessing to talk to you.
Oh, thank you so much again, John, for inviting me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. No, you've been on my list for a long time. I'm glad we got to have a conversation.
Great. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Blessings.
Bye.
On you. Bye.